From David, and I wanted to go right to this because it is about more. It says, you prefer electing than removing Moore. Ben thinks electing him is morally wrong. What accounts for such a stark difference between you when your values are so similar, and does it cause friction between you? Well, let me answer that first. No, it doesn't cause friction between us. We argue, we debate things. We are both patriotic men of goodwill who understand that the world looks different to different people. We do share most values, I think. Our values are very, very similar. But we also do look at things differently, partly through age, partly through upbringing, and partly through the way we think. We think in different ways. I'm, an artist. I think in a certain way, and Ben is a commentator and a political, very insightful political observer. He thinks in different ways than I do. Here are some things on which we differ that people of goodwill are going to differ about. One is our attitudes towards sex, and I say that advisedly because I'm not talking about sex as an act. I'm talking about it as an ethical aspect of humankind. I think that I acknowledge that birth control changed the landscape. Ben and I live the same lives. We're faithfully married people who love our wives and are devoted to our children, devoted to our family lives. We understand that is the happiness plan. That's the plan you get if you want to live a great life. But there's a question about how you react to other people's sex lives and what they do. And Ben sort of feels that this is the way. I mean, I think today he was talking about feeling homosexuality is a sin, and that's a judgment on other people because he obviously doesn't have that urge and I don't have that urge. So I have a different way of looking at it. My feeling about sex is twofold. One, sex is a strong force in human life. It is a strong wind that blows through human life, and sometimes people fail to deal with it properly. Most people at some point in their life fail to deal with it as they should, whether in a big way or in a small way. So I don't look at sex as always being indicative of character. What the news media is saying to you when they bring up these scandals is that these scandals are indicative of a debased character, a character who should not be making laws. So when they tell you, Mitt Romney stuck women in binders, nonsense, genuine nonsense. Mitt Romney bullied somebody in high school. Mitt Romney put a dog on his roof. They're trying to tell you that this guy's character is bent in some ways, and people are looking at use sexual scandals that way because we react so strongly to them. We have these strong emotions. I look at it differently. I feel that since sex is such a strong force, especially for men, they're riding this rocket basically, and it can be very difficult, especially when they're young and they're not as wise as they are when they're older, and they're not as calm as they are when they're older. I don't always think it is indicative of character if people make a mistake. If people get drunk and made a pass they shouldn't have made. If people went after a girl who was unhappy with how aggressive they were. I don't always think that actually is indicative of character. And then it becomes none of my business in the political sphere because I feel that politics is not where I go for moral instruction. I do not turn to Donald Trump or Barack Obama or any other senator or congressman for moral instruction in my life. That is not what I look for. What I look for is freedom. I look for them to cut the government back and to follow the Constitution and keep it under control. When they don't do that, like Barack Obama didn't, I don't like them. I reject them. When they do it, as Donald Trump has done it, in spite of all my expectations, he has followed the Constitution and cut back the government. I support them, even if I don't like them. I don't have to like the people in government. That is another difference between the two of us, is where we put politics in human life. For me, politics is a small part of human life that is only important because it makes the rest of human life possible, right? Politics is something that you shouldn't. Jonah Goldberg said this the other day, and I completely agree with this, that politics should be in a free country, politics should be a small part of human life. You should have to think about it every couple of years, every election day. You should read up on what's going on. You should be able to make your decision, vote, and forget all about it. The problem is the growth of the federal government. It's reach into every aspect of our lives, whether a man bakes a cake that he doesn't want to bake, whether somebody lets somebody into the bathroom in their school. The president in Washington is telling somebody in Alabama or Arkansas who should go into the bathroom in their school. Because the federal government has gotten so large, it has become much more difficult for us to give politics the level of attention it deserves, which is about this much, a little bit, so that now we have to pay more attention because it affects so much of our lives. We shouldn't get confused with thinking that this is the moral sphere, that this is where the great moral questions are played out. Really, only one great moral question should be played out in the government sphere, and that is, how free are you? How small can we keep this government? How can we solve problems? Here in LA, we just have had these massive fires. Up where I lived just 3 years ago, up in Santa Barbara, these fires, all my friends have been evacuated. These fires are going out of control. The fire in LA was started, they say now, by a homeless man, a group of homeless people having a cooking fire that caught fire in the woods. And LA, nobody talks about this very much, but LA has become a homeless city, a city full of homeless camps. There are tents. You go downtown around City Hall, and there are whole tent cities out there. I call them Obamavilles. There are these encampments of homeless people. Now, that's a question. What I say is, I look at that as, how can we solve this problem? Because people shouldn't be homeless in this country, and most people who are homeless in this country are mentally ill, and mentally ill people should not be wandering around free, in my opinion. How do we solve this and keep people free and not lessen freedom? That's the problem. The Democrats don't ask that. They always say, how can government solve this? I always say, how can we solve this and keep people free? Those are the questions I want answered from government, and I really don't care. I really don't care whether they divorce their wives or cheat on their wives. I don't even care if Al Franken grabs a girl by the backside now and again. She ought to turn around and smack him as hard as she can, which would end his career right there anyway. So that is a difference in the way I look at politics and the way I look at government. And finally, and this is probably the most important thing, and the one thing that Ben and I have discussed a number of times, and part of this is just age. It is just a difference in age. I look at time differently. I'm not an idealist. I am not an idealist. Younger people tend to be idealists. They think that there is some way that the world is going to become a better place. The world becomes a better place mostly through technology. Technology makes the world easier and better. But in terms of the big questions, the world stays right about the same in terms of how much good and evil there is in it. I'm not an idealist. I'm a pragmatist. And I realize that time is finite. For someone at my age, time is really finite, man. Time's winged chariot is right over my shoulder. So I realize that every day, this is the words if you go back and look at the video of me and Ben on election day, these are the words I spoke to him on the day. I said, every day is a day. What I mean by that is, every day that's a good day is a good day. And every time, and if you string enough good days together, eventually it's not your problem anymore, because you are then dealing with the eternal questions you should have been dealing with all along. So I look at politics and I just think, one day America is going to be gone. One day freedom's going to be gone. Freedom always collapses. There's no time in history when freedom has lasted. This is what makes me not an idealist. I know that I am just trying to save today. As a political operative, I'm just trying to stay free today and tomorrow and the day after that, until I'm gone. Then it's your problem. And that is the way I look at it. So when I look at this, Roy Moore, I think, I don't know what he did 30 years ago. I really don't. I don't think he's going to rape anybody in Washington, D.C. I don't even think he's going to chase anybody around. I think he's a creep. Let him come in. Let's pass the bills that he can pass and then throw him out. That's just because every day is a day, right? Every day is another day that we can move forward. I don't see the moral issue to me is freedom when it comes to Roy Moore. Obviously, if he's a depraved personality who is doing things right now, this is why for me there's a difference between someone who has done something and someone who does something. Harvey Weinstein was doing things. It was something, he was a depraved, seems to be, allegedly, I'll say, he was an allegedly depraved person who was doing things all the time. That's got to be stopped. If it's a crime, he should be arrested. If it violates the ethics of the body he's a part of, he should be ejected. And if he does something to a woman that's untoward, she ought to knock him out. She ought to slap him in the face. I mean, those are the only remedies society is ever going to come up with. And it's not right to stay silent for 30 years and then come out and make an unfounded allegation, and that should cost the guy a job. That's not right. That is not due process. That is not, there's not, I said this yesterday, they use that word credible. You have no way of judging what's credible in that situation. So those are things, those are attitudes that, ways of looking at life, worldviews, I guess you'd call call them, that Ben and I are different, have different. What we have in common are our love of this country, our belief in virtue, our belief in God. We both share these things, and these are the things that's why there's really not, at least on my side, I should say, there's no friction on my side. Maybe for all I know, Ben is outside the door going, the minute he's out of there, I've got a crowbar from the man crate, I'm going to beat that guy. But no, that's not. I think Ben is the greatest, and I think that we disagree on certain parts of our worldviews.